Karl Hermann Frank was a high-ranking Nazi official who served as Secretary of State and later higher SS and police leader in the protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia. He is most widely known for ordering the destruction of the Czech village of Lidice in 1942. After World War II, he was captured, tried, and executed for war crimes. This video covers his background, political career, and the Lidice massacre. Karl Hermann Frank was born in 1898 in Carlsbad, then part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Today, the city is known as Karlovy Vary in the Czech Republic. He was ethnically a Sudeten German, part of the German-speaking minority in what would later become Czechoslovakia. Following the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire after World War I, the new state of Czechoslovakia was established. Many Sudeten Germans, including Frank, felt politically and culturally alienated within this new national framework. German nationalism among this minority increased significantly during the interwar period. In the 1920s, Frank joined German nationalist and far-right political movements. By the early 1930s, he became involved in the Sudeten German Party, SDP, which advocated for the political unification of the Sudeten region with Germany. Frank was an ambitious figure and rose quickly through the party's ranks. His political views aligned closely with those of the Nazi Party in Germany. He supported authoritarian rule, racial hierarchy, anti-Semitism, and the expansion of German power in Central Europe. His loyalty to the Nazi cause earned him direct connections with Adolf Hitler's regime. In 1938, the Munich Agreement forced Czechoslovakia to cede the Sudetenland to Nazi Germany. This annexation was framed by Germany as a reunification of ethnic Germans with the Reich. As a prominent Sudeten German nationalist, Frank was brought into the Nazi administrative structure following the annexation. After Germany fully occupied the remainder of Czechoslovakia in March 1939, the Protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia was created. Frank was appointed Secretary of State in the new administration, effectively making him one of the highest civilian authorities in the region. He later became the higher SS and police leader, giving him broad control over security, law enforcement, and repression. During his tenure, Frank oversaw the systematic persecution of Czech citizens, particularly Jews and political opponents. He coordinated arrests, deportations, and the confiscation of property. His administration implemented policies of Germanization, forced labor, and mass surveillance. Frank maintained strong loyalty to the SS leadership and to Adolf Hitler personally. His name appeared on numerous orders linked to forced deportations and summary executions. He operated with administrative efficiency and showed no interest in moderation or diplomacy. On May 27, 1942, SS Obergruppenführer Reinhard Heydrich, Reich Protector of Bohemia and Moravia, was attacked in Prague by Czech resistance operatives trained by British intelligence. He died of his injuries on June 4, 1942. In retaliation, the Nazi leadership demanded a severe response. Frank was among those tasked with executing the reprisals. Although Lidice had no proven connection to the assassination, the village was selected to serve as an example. On June 10, 1942, Nazi forces surrounded Lidice. All adult men were rounded up and executed. A total of 173 men were shot in groups. The women were deported to the Ravensbrück concentration camp. Approximately 88 children were either gassed at the Chelmno extermination camp or sent to German families for forced assimilation. The entire village was destroyed. Buildings were blown up. The cemetery was desecrated. The land was flattened and the name Lidice was removed from official maps. The act was publicly announced by the Nazi government as a warning. The massacre of Lidice received widespread international attention and condemnation. It became a symbol of Nazi brutality and collective punishment. Karl Hermann Frank's direct role in authorizing and facilitating the massacre was well documented. He remained in his position until the end of the war. As Nazi Germany capitulated in May 1945, Karl Hermann Frank attempted to evade accountability by fleeing westward. He was apprehended on May 9, 1945, by American military personnel near the city of Plzeň in western Czechoslovakia. Recognized immediately due to his high public profile, he was placed under arrest and handed over to Czechoslovak authorities. His detention attracted public and media attention within the newly liberated country. Many Czechs saw him not only as a Nazi official, but as a direct symbol of repression, fear, and collective punishment. The destruction of Lidice, in particular, remained a painful and widely remembered atrocity. Frank was not transferred to Nuremberg for trial under Allied jurisdiction, unlike many other senior Nazis. Instead, he was tried in Prague before a Czechoslovak People's Court. The decision to prosecute him locally was partly political. Czech authorities viewed his crimes as national in nature, directed against their own population and territory. His trial began in March 1946. It was open to the public and heavily covered by the press. Witnesses included survivors from Lidice, former prisoners, and officials who had worked under Frank during the occupation. Frank was charged with war crimes, crimes against humanity, and crimes against the Czech nation. Specific accusations included his involvement in the Lidice massacre, the systematic execution of Czech resistance members, the deportation of Jews and forced laborers, the destruction of civilian property, the misuse of state authority for racial and political persecution. During the trial, Frank did not deny that these events occurred but attempted to shift responsibility onto higher-ranking officials or on the exigencies of wartime necessity. He maintained a formal and cooperative demeanor throughout the proceedings, offering no expression of remorse. On May 21, 1946, the court found Karl Hermann Frank guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to death by public hanging. The execution of Karl Hermann Frank took place on the morning of May 22, 1946, at the Pankrak prison in Prague. The Czechoslovak government allowed the execution to be conducted in public, a rare exception at the time. The decision was based on widespread demand among the population and the symbolic nature of Frank's crimes. It is estimated that approximately 5,000 civilians were present at the execution site, including survivors of Nazi occupation, former resistance fighters, and members of the general public. Frank was brought to the gallows shortly after dawn. He wore a plain prison uniform and remained composed. Witnesses reported that he walked unaided and showed no outward signs of panic or distress. Before the executioner performed his duty, Frank was asked if he wished to say any final words. He replied with a brief statement, "Long live Germany." There was no mention of his victims, no expression of regret, and no reference to Lidice or the Czech people. Following his declaration, the execution was carried out. The procedure was conducted in accordance with standard protocols, and death was confirmed shortly thereafter. Photographs and reports of the event were later published in national and international newspapers. The execution was interpreted by many as a symbolic act of justice, not only for the victims of Lidice but for the broader Czech population that had suffered under Nazi occupation.